tension, based on real events. Michael Carter wasn't a superstitious guy. He worked late, paid his bills, and laughed off ghost stories. One rainy night in Cleveland, Ohio, he caught the last bus home, Route 13. The streets were empty, rain ticking against the windows, the aisle lamps dim. The driver said nothing. Michael was the only passenger. He closed his eyes for a minute. When he woke, the bus had stopped. Outside, a wall of fog. No stop sign, no streetlights, no landmarks, only gray. "Where are we?" he asked. The driver watched him in the rearview mirror, held the gaze too long, and finally said, almost kindly, "End of the line." Michael stepped out. The ground was soft and sucking like wet peat. He turned back, the bus was gone. No engine, no taillights, only silence. And then, behind him, the sound of footsteps. He spun around. Nothing. He took a careful step. Another step answered, half a beat behind. He quickened, so did it. He ran. The other ran, closer, louder, as if it were learning his pace. A thread of cold breath slid along his neck, and something grazed his coat. Then, through the fog, he saw it. A boarded-up station house, the kind that used to sit by freight tracks, its sign fallen, windows spiderwebbed. A weak light pulsed behind a cracked pane. Michael shoved the door and stumbled inside. The station was empty. Rows of warped benches, a timetable yellowed to parchment, the sweet metal smell of old pennies. The clock on the wall ticked backward. On the board, destinations flipped with a rattle. Ashfield, Blackwater, nowhere. Then a date that didn't exist, November 31st. A mirror hung opposite the benches, its silvering mottled like frost. Michael stepped closer. His reflection lagged, blinking a split second late. Then it smiled first. He hadn't moved. The echoing footfalls, he understood, weren't following him across the floor. They were following him from inside the glass. The reflection raised a hand and showed a damp bus transfer stamped in smeared ink. End of the line. He backed away, but fingers, cold as river stones, closed around his wrist from the mirror's side. The glass rippled like water. The doors slammed. The timetable clattered until the letters spelled Michael Carter. A horn bellowed outside. He tore free, skin burning with frost, and bolted out into thinning fog. When the mist lifted, he stood at a rusted sign for a long-closed stop. Ravenswood, Illinois. A maintenance truck rattled past. In its side mirror, a face looked back at him wearing that same too-early smile, and it wasn't his. Michael never rode a bus again. Next scary story. Alyssa was quiet, polite, folded in on herself. We barely spoke, until one evening, when the whole room felt hushed, she turned to me and said, "Can I tell you a story? Just don't tell anyone else." Her voice shook, but her eyes didn't. She'd grown up in a dusty little town called Silver Gulch, New Mexico. Her grandmother, Zoe Whitaker, lived there alone after Grandpa passed. For years, Grandma seemed fine. Then she started calling late, asking them to visit, begging them to stay the night. One weekend, with their parents tied up at work, Alyssa and her sister drove out to check on her. Everything seemed normal. Dinner, small talk, dishes clinking in the sink. They went to bed. In the deep hours, Alyssa woke, not to a sound, but to the weight of being watched. Grandma stood by the bed, perfectly still, smiling a smile that didn't fit her face, like someone had borrowed it and put it on wrong. Her eyes were polished and empty. The smile didn't move when she breathed. Picture frames on the dresser had somehow turned to face the wall. The hallway clock ticked backward. Alyssa sat up hard, shook her sister awake, and together they guided Grandma back to bed. She lay down without a fight, still wearing that tight, too-wide grin, showing one tooth too many. In the morning, they called their mom, and by evening, Pastor Collins from St. Bartholomew's arrived with a Bible and a small vial of oil. He stayed 3 nights. He read aloud, marked the doorways, tucked little packets of salt into the corners. The pipes inside the walls knocked in time with the prayers, as if answering. On the second night, every bulb in the house began to hum. The air throbbed like a held breath. On the third night, The attic door unlatched itself with a soft click, and a draft slid down the stairs carrying the smell of damp earth and something like old pennies. Near dawn, Grandma sat bolt upright. Her eyes cleared, then clouded, then cleared again, like someone riffling through them. In a voice that was hers and not hers, she said, "Thank you. Now I'm free. Only," and turned to Alyssa with that too early smile. "Pastor Collins told them not to answer, not to promise anything at all." Alyssa didn't speak. The house exhaled, long and slow. A week later, Grandma stopped calling at night. She went back to leaving the lights on and sleeping through storms. "So it worked," I said. Alyssa nodded, then added, very softly, "I think it left." She looked at me for a long time. "You won't tell anyone, right?" she asked, and for just a heartbeat, her grin arrived a fraction before the rest of her face. Next scary story. My name is Eric Mason. I'm not a superstitious man. I was born and raised in Odessa, Texas, and I've worked as a field geologist most of my life, logging thousands of miles across the plains. But I will never forget the night we pulled into Gray Hollow, a ghost town that still lingers on the oldest survey maps. My partner Ben Ortiz and I were bouncing along a back road, checking abandoned wells. Dusk caught us far from the highway. The GPS froze, fuel ran low, and the radio spat only a thin hiss. I remembered Gray Hollow from the archives. Ben said folks in these parts called it a bad place. We went anyway. The town was dead. Dry wellheads like rib bones, houses without roofs as if time had scorched them clean. We built a fire in the middle of Main Street and boiled coffee. Ben dozed off and I took first watch. No insects, no wind. The stars looked close but dull, and my wristwatch ticked backward once. Just a single click, like it was thinking about it. At exactly midnight, the fire shivered, answering a wind that didn't exist, and a low hum pressed on my eardrums. That's when I saw him at the far end of the street. Tall, wrapped in a black coat with a hood, face hidden, eyes the color of banked coals. He didn't walk. He slid, the way heat wavers across asphalt. I never heard a voice, but words were inside my skull, as clear as my own. "Tell me what you want." The flames went high and then inverted, burning black for a heartbeat. My shadow stretched toward him like it had changed its mind about who it belonged to. The truck's radio crackled my name in Ben's voice, even though Ben was snoring beside me. Footprints appeared in the dust between us, one after another, filling with something dark that didn't reflect the fire at all. I woke at dawn alone on open prairie. No truck, no Ben, no town. Just a ring of cold ash around me. They found me 2 days later. Search crews with dogs and drones said Gray Hollow was there. All right, but empty as a ribcage. Ben told the sheriff he woke at first light to find my bedroll empty. He searched every house and called it in. When they finally pulled me out of the bluestem miles away, I wasn't hurt and I didn't remember walking. My boots were clean like I'd been carried. In my pocket was our folded map, edges slick with something that smelled like hot metal. Ben swears he saw a second set of prints beside mine that went on for 30 yards and then stopped dead in the middle of the road, as if the owner had been plucked straight up into the sky. I went back to work, but it's different now. Sometimes my shadow moves a fraction before I do, turning my shoulders, choosing a path like it already knows where I'm headed. Mirrors lag for half a second, as if they're waiting for someone else to arrive. My truck's GPS will blink, just once, to a coordinate that doesn't exist and a message that does. End of line. And in the thickest silence, no wind, no engines, no breath, I can feel it again, patient as a drought. I don't travel back roads after dark anymore. I don't ask for anything. I just listen, and I know it's waiting. Thanks for watching until the next scary stories.